Dry and breezy conditions contribute to fire behavior in Pine Valley. Victim's mom warned St. George convict of karma coming. And your local weather forecast coming up with highs, lows, and everything you need to know for the days ahead.
You're watching St. George News at 5, brought to you by our studio sponsor, We Win Injury Law.
Good afternoon, I'm Monica McLaughlin. The Foresight Fire has burned more than 13,700 acres in the Pine Valley area, with containment holding at 47%. According to Great Basin Complex Incident Management Team 2, firefighters continue patrols, mop-up, and repair work, with increased fire traffic expected in the Pine Valley recreation area. Crews are making progress on several fire lines while scouting continues on the southwest side. Dry, breezy conditions and low fuel moisture are contributing to active fire behavior. Evacuation orders for Pine Valley, Grass Valley, and Grays Ranch have been downgraded to ready, with no evacuation orders in Pinto. A forest closure remains in effect for the Pine Valley Ranger District. A St. George man was sentenced to at least 14 years in prison after pleading guilty to rape, attempted rape, and burglary after a series of sexual assaults at Utah Tech University student housing. Here's a closer look at the emotional sentencing hearing and how the victim's attorneys and judge responded.
First and foremost, I'd like to apologize to everyone involved in this case. I'm the man who, on October 31st, made a series of some terrible, terrible choices.
On Wednesday, 23-year-old Alex Gabriel Barajas appeared in 5th District Court in St. George for sentencing on rape, attempted rape, and burglary charges after 3 Utah Tech students were sexually assaulted while they slept in their dorm rooms in the early morning hours of November 1st of last year. Here is prosecutor Lane Wood.
The defendant himself, in his statement in the PSI, said that he had a dream that he was the victim, and it's been one of his worst nightmares to date. Unfortunately, that nightmare is the reality for these young women.
The defense attorney for Barajas, Franklin Katsky, said his client spent a total of 45 minutes in the dorms committing 3 assaults, which was part of a single criminal episode, as defined under Utah law.
And so we see what happened on November 1st, 2024 was a single episode of culpability. And it's not that he, again, reassessed the situation, decided and took a calculated risk again. It was one act of immense stupidity, selfishness, of non-thoughts that Mr. Barajas took.
You treated these 3 individuals as objects to satiate your illicit desires. You treated them that way, as objects. And now you go one step further, asking the court to treat these 3 individuals as one object. Just a single thing, one victim. The court won't do that.
In court, victims of Barajas were heard, including the mother of one of the students he attacked.
The early morning hours of November 1st, you might have thought you lucked out because you found an open door, but you also opened the door to a very dark future, a future of karma that awaits you.
You say you were too drunk to know what you were doing. I don't buy that for 1 second. You weren't too drunk to run away and hide. You weren't too drunk to deceive the police. You weren't too drunk. I don't buy that for 1 second. You knew exactly what you were doing.
In the end, there was no mercy for Alex Barajas. He was sentenced to 14 years to life on the charges combined, after the judge ordered consecutive sentences.
Now we'll take a look at your daily weather forecast, brought to you by Casablanca Resort and Casino. We're seeing sunny skies across the region, with St. George currently warming up at 105, heading into a low of 76 tonight. Tomorrow brings more heat, with highs reaching 107 and a low near 78. Over in Mesquite, it's already 107 degrees under clear skies, with tonight dipping to 81 degrees and tomorrow climbing to a hot 110 before dropping to around 83 degrees overnight. Cedar City is a bit cooler at 90 degrees now, but breezy this afternoon. Expect a low of 63 degrees tonight, followed by a sunny day tomorrow with highs near 93 degrees and lows around 64 degrees. As the legal fight over Utah's congressional maps continues, Better Boundaries visited southern Utah to rally support for redistricting reform and discuss voter-led initiatives. For more on what this could mean for voters in southern Utah, here's Maury Kessler.
As the court battle over Utah's redistricting continues, representatives from the nonprofit Better Boundaries visited St. George last month to rally local support and raise concerns about the legislature's power to override voter-approved initiatives. Speaking at a June 23rd meeting held at the St. George Library, Executive Director Elizabeth Rasmussen outlined the history of a lawsuit challenging Utah's 2021 congressional maps, which plaintiffs argue violated the intent of Proposition 4. The 2018 initiative created an independent redistricting commission that created new maps that were rejected by the legislature. Lawmakers also passed legislation that switched the commission to an advisory role.
We're an organization that's trying to stop gerrymandering in Utah, and we haven't really expanded out of Salt Lake for a minute. And so we're trying to reach some of our supporters here and discuss ways that, how they feel about it and ways that we can be helpful to them. We have, I would say, 3 ultimate goals. One is fair maps in Utah, or a fair process for maps, since they keep getting redrawn. And then a ballot initiative process that's honest and accessible, and elections that are honest, which will also come from the previous 2. So those are our main goals right now.
Rasmussen said the court is expected to make a ruling soon, and it should reflect a 2024 Utah Supreme Court precedent affirming citizens' right to reform government through initiatives. Rasmussen also warned of upcoming constitutional amendments that could further restrict ballot initiative power. Despite partisan divides, she said redistricting reform has support on both sides of the aisle.
Really spread the word to show this isn't Republican or Democrat. It really affects everyone, and we just want to make sure everyone's represented.
Thanks, Maury. After vandals removed flags along State Route 18, dozens of American flags were installed in a show of patriotism and support for longtime flag caretaker Terry Taylor. Here's Nick Fiala for more on how the community came together to restore the display.
Anonymous Washington County residents showed off their national pride over the past month by putting up dozens of American flags along State Route 18 North. This was done, at least in part, to defy vandals who recently tried to remove some of the flags that were already posted. The patriotic display was also a gesture of support for Terry Taylor, who has continued a tradition of posting flags at what is now sometimes called Flag Rock along SR 18 just north of St. George.
Thank you for watching St. George News at 5. To learn more about our studio sponsor, We Win Injury Law, go to wewininjurylaw.com. I'm Monica McLaughlin with St. George News, your #1 source for local news.
This has been St. George News at 5, brought to you by We Win Injury Law.